Good. Good. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me here tonight. And before we start going into what we are planning to talk tonight, I would like just to make a brief introduction of my past history in the Spiritism. Like that, you will know that I'm not coming out of the blue, not having any experience really. Well, I'm born in a Spiritism family. My father is still working as an indoctrinator tonight. Actually, he's in the meeting tonight again. He is 80 plus. The first opportunity I had to participate in the mediumship meeting was when I was 15 years old. I worked as indoctrinator for like 15 years. And I liked a lot to do research and to do experiment myself before I even consider to do or to talk about something. So that's just a brief thought about where I'm coming from. So let me move on. This is the subject of tonight, virtual mediumship meeting. I'm part of SSL, and I'm trying to bring to you tonight my personal experiences and practices, and anything I may say tonight reflects my own experience and personal point of view based on the Spiritism and practice. So normally when we start to do a presentation, we start in a different way. I bet some of you may be asking, are we asking already? Do we have questions already from the beginning? And I think it's important that we ask ourselves few things before we start. Why are we here today? We know human beings do not like changes, don't we? What is the current status quo? Food for thoughts. So that something has happened here. Just a minute. Well, why we are here today? I believe that we are very curious to know what's going on beyond our own institutions. I think we have kind of a need based on the last 2 years. We all been through hard times. And that's a good opportunity to at least think about it, because we need to be prepared to think and to make questions to ourselves and to the others. We know that human beings don't like changes. That is natural. This is human. We are very comfortable the way we are, the way we're being told, and very unlikely we jump into something new. And what is the current status quo? Well, pandemic is not over yet, is it? We don't know when that will be over. We know that numbers are increasing in some parts of the globe. Technology is here. So if we are here in this meeting tonight, it's because we at least consider other ways of serving God, serving Jesus. So, food for thoughts. Spiritist science consists of two aspects. The experimental deals with manifestation in general, whereas the philosophical deals with intelligent manifestation. However, has observed only the former is like someone who only knows about physics from recreational experiments, without having delved into the science itself. The true Spiritist doctrine is found in the teachings impaired by the spirits, and the knowledge of this teaching is far too serious to be acquired in any other way than in an in-depth and continuous study made in silence and reflection on the matter. That's from KARDEC, Spiritist book, okay? I have a feeling that the Spiritists nowadays, they stop trying to understand KARDEC in depth and to perform experiments. We need to remember that everything starts with KARDEC doing experiments. What kind of experiments KARDEC would do if he was here today? Knowing different tools, different technology, different ways of doing research. Would KARDEC use exactly the same method he used 200 years ago? I think he would use what is available, because that was what he did in his time. So why we cannot use what is available today to our own benefit? Then is a thought from myself. Are we Spiritists? Do we work with the spirits? Do we listen to the instructions? When was the last time any Spiritist group asked their benefactor for the instructions, including the virtual mediumship meeting? Why I add this thought? I work with spirits, and so I feel comfortable to ask them when I need some instructions or some guidance. And I did ask about virtual mediumship meeting. I'm not asking any spirit. I'm asking the spirits that I'm familiar with for at least 15 years, that I know the results of what they do for us and with us. It's spirits that I'm able to recognize their energy, the way they write, and the level of information they gave to us. Furthermore, it's spirits that I know the results of their work, what they do to help people like us. And the answer I had from them in 2 different places, in 2 different countries, because every time I have something important like that to do, I try to use what KARDEC told us. Ask more than one place. And that's what I did. I did ask in Brazil, and I did ask in London. And the message was, yes, we are okay. We will give you support. Need to be prepared. Need to have a structure. And that made me very comfortable to be here tonight. When I had that feedback from the spirits I'm familiar with, one of them is Joseph Gleber, I decided to do a research. I decided to dig out what is going on in the Spiritism world. But we're going to talk about that furthermore. I've tried to locate some references in KARDEC and in André Luiz, Chico Xavier. It's unrealistic to think that KARDEC would mention Zoom, Gmail, Hotmail, spaceships. He may have had some insight at the time, like Chico Xavier had, but he never wrote anything about it. So if anyone come to me and ask where KARDEC wrote about Zoom meeting, well, I don't think it's a serious question, because at that time, science was not there. The science we have today was not there. So he would not mention about it. In the same way that he did not disclose all the information about Perispirit, for example. He mentioned things for us, and it's down to us to continue his work. So here we go again. Spiritist meetings, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them, Matthew. And the preface, in order to be gathered together in the name of Jesus, our material presence alone is not enough. it is also indispensable to be assembled in the spiritual sense by means of a communication of intention and thoughts toward goodness. Let's consider that KARDEC is writing this today. Before communication, the word communication in the end, if he had used the little word any, what would we think? Because Zoom, virtual meetings, are means of communication. And when he brought to us that what is indispensable is to be connected spiritually, I can assure that can be done virtually. We are here connected, more than we think. And if you think you are alone in your home, I'll be very surprised if you are alone. I don't think so. So we are connected. And this part was brought from the gospel. But as ever, 10 people in the room read the same text, will have different interpretations. A little comma in the text may change the whole idea. So we need to respect everyone's idea, but we also need to make questions and try to find meaning behind every word. Another point from KARDEC, science has been given him for his advancement in all things, but he cannot exceed the limits which God has set. That is from the Spiritist book. If we are using something that exceeded God's limits, would we be here today? I don't think so either. So that means that we are using something that was allowed from God to exist. I think that's the basics. Carrying on. Through its progressive march, the doctrine proves that it fears nothing. Spiritist Trip 1862. This is KARDEC telling us we should not fear. We should continue his work, or at least be open to new possibilities. We should not fear. A little bit more KARDEC. One final characteristic of the Spiritist revelation, and which proceeds from the very conditions in which it is produced, is that being supported by facts, it cannot help but be essentially progressive, like all the science of observation. By its essence, it is allied with science, which, being the exposition of the law of nature through a certain order of facts, cannot be contrary to the will of God. The author of such a laws, the discovery of science, glorify God rather than deemed God. They destroy only what humans have built upon the erroneous idea about God. Genesis. And that sentence from KARDEC, I think, is one of the most important, because everything needs to be supported by facts. Spiritism is essentially progressive, allied with science, and cannot be contrary to the will of God. Well, there's a lot of things to think on this one, but I'll try to stick to our time. And I think that once again, I would like to have your attention for supported by facts and essentially progressive. If we have more time during our conversation and questions, perhaps we can evolve a little bit more. I personally love André Luiz's books. They are not a romance. They have a lot of information, but we need to read word by word, trying to identify the meanings. And he brought a massive amount of knowledge to all of us. I don't know how you all are familiar with his books, but it's massive. I would recommend to read through it. And before I show what André Luiz said, I would like to mention something that when I was discussing with Geraldinho one guy in Brazil that was very familiar with Chico Xavier, and he's trying to promote his work nowadays. He said that Chico once asked him, Geraldinho, what is multimedia? At the time, there was no internet, there was nothing. This technology wasn't there. And he asked, what is multimedia? So probably one of the benefactors is whispering on his ears, multimedia. And Geraldinho's response was, I have no idea. Geraldinho is today like 40 plus. So at the time he was very young. So if there was any technology available, he would know about it. And he said, well, Chico, I know media, what a media is, multimedia, I do not know. It does mean that on the other side of on the spiritual world, at that time, there was a reality already. André Luiz says on the Astral City, containing with the difficulty the numerous queries, I've noticed that in the background, on a gigantic screen, there was drawing prodigious pictures of almost magical light. Remember that he was describing that to people that at the time had no TVs at home. So it was very difficult to show something at the time to that employer. Obeying the advanced process of television, the scene of a marvelous temple appeared. He was mentioning technology at that time. At that time, at least in my country, there was already a plus, people that had a radio at home. TV was something very unusual, only after that period of time. Another point from Astral City, in the center, there is a huge apparatus designed to demonstrate by means of terrestrial cinematograph, with which is possible to carry out 5 different projections simultaneously. 5 different projections simultaneously. I think he was kind of describing the environment we are right now. He was describing the Zoom. Am I wrong? Maybe. But Chico Xavier, André Luiz, and the benefactors that supported the wonderful work, they said that over 50 years ago. Carry on, André Luiz again. Our sister Selina will transmit the word of a benefactor who, although absent from here, from the spatial point of view, will enter in the communication with us through the teledynamic fluids that link him to the medium's mind. He was not present. He was not present. But is that possible? Asked Lilaio discreetly. Aulus thought immediately. Remember, the radio and television, today achievements widely known in the world. A man from town to town can hear the message of a companion and see him at the same time and see it at the same time, as long as both are in perfect harmony through the same wavelength in the realms of mediumship. What we are doing here today, we are not physically together, but our thoughts, our fluids are connected. The wavelength that we are sharing here is sharing more than my voice, my scream. We are together. And that, once again, was brought more than 50 years ago. So the information was there. We need to remember that quite often when we read André Luiz, we think as a romance. Nice history, nice thoughts, but it's more than that. Okay, what time is it? Okay, I need to run a little bit more because I'm using a lot of time. Basically, I want to do a comparison here, face-to-face, an online meeting or virtual meeting. On the left side is everything we need to have to be part of a presential meeting, right? Yes. But then now we need to think about what we need to the virtual environment, commitment has to be the same. Responsibility has to be the same. Assiduity, I don't need to say anything. Frequently study. Mediums and spiritists as a whole, they need to study for the entire life. There is no difference here of what we are studying for the presential or virtual. For the virtual, even more, in my opinion. Preparation of the medium has to be exactly the same. We know what we need to do to be safe face-to-face, so we know what we need to do to be safe virtually. Preparation of the venue. Preparation of the venue is more important when we are on the virtual side. And I'll speak a little bit about that here. We all know that on the Spiritist institution, there's a whole preparation around that room or that area on the house where the meeting will take place. The same thing needs to happen in our homes. So that's why we should not make a meeting today in this room, a meeting tomorrow in the other room, a meeting tomorrow in the garden. Why? Because the spirits, they need to prepare the place. It's not just energy. There are equipment, there are protections. There's a lot of things that need to be considered by them that most of us, we don't see, but is there. So when we do that virtually, we need to pay more attention on this. So choose carefully the place in your home and maintain the same place. And furthermore, we want to talk about that, but let's move on. Punctuality. We all get a bit more relaxed when we are at home, isn't it? But punctuality is a must. If you want to work with the spirits, punctuality is a must, at least to start. Sometimes to end a meeting, we can be a bit flexible, but to start, we have to pay attention on this. And both virtual and face-to-face. Indoctrinator, we need someone to talk. We need someone with experience to have a nice conversation with the spirits that may come to our meeting. On the virtual scenario, even more, because there are situations where you have to speak to someone that's not next to you. So experience is a must. Coordinator. Sometimes the coordinator and the doctrinator are the same person, but sometimes not. But on the virtual meeting, having a coordinator that can be working side to side with the indoctrinator is a plus, because he can pay attention on things that are happening on the other rooms, not only with the room he was talking to. So it's good to keep an eye on everything. A coordinator has a different perspective in the virtual meeting. Benefactors, yes, they are there. I have no doubt about it. Suffering spirits, yes. What's the purpose of a meeting? Have only nice spirits coming and having a chat? Of course not. So on the virtual meeting, they also come. When I did ask for the spiritists, the only thing they brought to my attention was, do not engage in a very heavy obsession case through the virtual meeting. And to be honest, not every spiritist institution is prepared to do it. Perhaps in the future that will evolve and can be done virtually as well. But that was a remark that the spirits made, and I think we should follow. There's a difference on the virtual. The electronics, there we are kind of familiar right now, so we need to pay a particular attention for the electronics, and we'll talk a little bit about that if we still have time. So preparation. Preparation is the key for everything. Every time we engage ourselves in any activity, we need to be prepared. The institution that I'm part of in Brazil has 74 years, and preparation was the key from day one. Have we had any problem? Yes, we had. Imagine if we haven't taught about problems, if we haven't taught about organization, if we haven't taught about preparation for everything. I'm pretty sure that it would be much worse. So preparation is everything. Why do you want to have a virtual meeting? Do you have experienced indoctrinator? Do you have experienced mediums? Are you able to sustain regular virtual meetings to create the required ties? Which are your objectives? Do you have regular discussions and receive instructions from your institution benefactor? So why I would consider a virtual meeting if I cannot do a face-to-face? Simple as that. But if you do have a face-to-face, would you consider to do one online? I'll mention further down, but yes, some spirit institutions, after they start to do virtual meetings, when the pandemic started, they decide to consider this method and face-to-face. So today, some institutions have face-to-face and virtual. They have sometimes same people that participate on face-to-face also participate on the virtual, but not only that, sometimes they have different mediums on the virtual meetings. It's vital to have indoctrinators, as I spoke a little bit before, that have enough experience to conduct the meeting. He has to play a massive role on this one because he needs to be sensible. He needs to pay attention. He needs to be familiar with technology. He needs to allow himself to be involved by the benefactor's energy in order to be able to feel what's going on the other side of the screen. By the way, it does happen as well face-to-face, but online, you need to trust. You need to have a faith and rely in our benefactors to share what we would share face-to-face, but from a distance. Another topic that the Spirits brought to our attention is that online meeting should be with experienced mediums, at least to start. If, for example, we all here participate in a regular meeting when we could face-to-face, we know each other already, we trust each other already, we are able to recognize each other energy, kind of thing. So that would help. Can we have a meeting with experienced mediums better for the first time, different mediums? Yes, but they have experience. They know how the process works. I believe in the future, after this method is comfortable by everyone, we can bring new mediums as well, but never ignoring the need to have experienced mediums as part of it. Why I put this item, able to sustain virtual meetings? Because it's exactly the same as a face-to-face. It's not like, well, let's have a meeting today, guys. No, we need to have a routine. We need to have a process to ensure that those technicalities are there, that the spirits are preparing something, not for once in a while, but that things are prepared to be used, same as a face-to-face. So if your institution have once a month, fair enough, every week, fair enough, but has to be something regular, like we do face-to-face. The objectives. I think it's very important to define the objectives of any spiritist task, and virtual meetings is no different. So what is the objective? Assist suffering spirits. We are not planning to have spiritist meetings just to talk to the benefactors, are we? Charity, help people suffering, help the spirits suffering. So that is one example, but every institution should evaluate what are the objectives. Do you have regular discussions and receive instructions from your benefactor? Always, always listen to your benefactors. And in the recent years, it seems like that we are afraid of doing it. I cannot count in my hands how many spiritists are afraid about listen to their benefactors. Well, you know, animism. Well, you know, how can we know? How can we trust? I think we need to go back to KARDEC, study a bit more, practice a bit more. And when we work with the same team for years and years, it's like us here, guys. If you're going to work together for 10 years, we know each other. We know what Ingo's going to say. We know what Elsa will think about something. We know each other. It's the same with the spiritual world. So why we don't ask the benefactors anymore? It seems like when KARDEC stopped his wonderful work, that was it. We should not ask the spirits anymore. KARDEC did, but we cannot do it. Let's move on. Method. Virtual mediumship meeting guidelines. Replicate the presential meeting method to the virtual meeting. Why do we need to follow the same care when doing the virtual meeting? Can I participate from my bed? Fear. Feeling insecure? Why? So, VMM guidelines, there is a group working on guidelines for this type of meeting. I think that will be a massive help to those that are planning, considering, or perhaps even doing already, to evaluate few things that other people may have taught. Sometimes when 3 people work together, they think better than only one. And they may see something that you don't. So the guideline will be there to help. Replicate the presential meeting. We need to ensure the same safety measures as face-to-face. There is no question about it. If you want to do a serious meeting, it has to be serious. If you want to be careful about ourselves, about the mediums, about our families, we need to follow the rules. We need to follow the safety measures. Same as we do in a Spiritist institution. But as we're going to do from our home, we need to be extra careful. How serious we are about this activity? What happens when someone is too comfortable in a face-to-face meeting? When we are too comfortable in a face-to-face meeting, when we lay our head down in a face-to-face meeting, what happens? We can sleep. The action from the suffering spirits can be higher, can create problems in the meeting. So on the virtual meeting, we need to be careful as well. Can I do from my bed? Of course not. We need to follow an organization. We need to be in a desk, always in the same place, same time. Pay attention. Listen to the guidance we will receive from the indoctrinator or from the coordinator, and that will ensure our own safety. Fear. Humans fear the unknown, but they have enough data and knowledge in the Spiritism not to fear. KARDEC told us not to fear. And speaking to one of the houses, and by the way, I'm participating in the virtual meetings, okay? And speaking to the coordinator and indoctrinator of that house that I'm having the pleasure to participate, he said the main problem was the fear. The fear is the main problem. Why? Because it's new, because we don't know, because I never did. And fear stopped a lot of people to join that kind of meeting. But on the other hand, he also said, the coordinator of that group, once people stop feel the fear, everything works wonders. Everything works wonders. Do we have fear to be in a face-to-face meeting? I remember the first time I went to a meeting. My father, he brought me to the meeting. He said, sit there, don't say a word. You're here to listen. You're here to learn. But deep inside in my heart, I was scared and I was prepared. I have studied enough to know the mechanism of the meeting. My father, he ensured that. But I was afraid because it was the unknown. After 1, 2, I felt comfortable because I saw, it really works as we can see on KARDEC, as we've been taught on the Spiritist institution, and we lost the fear. Feeling insecure? Why? Don't you trust on your own benefactors? Don't you trust on the institution benefactor? Do you really believe everything that KARDEC wrote in the book? So why you are insecure? If you are insecure, would you be insecure as well on a face-to-face? This is something we need to think about it, because we need to be comfortable. There is not a point to be part of something if you are dead afraid about something. So ask first. Let's study together. Let's try to mitigate your fears if it's possible. But if at the end of the day, you are so scared to be in a Spiritist mediumship meeting, even face-to-face, don't be it. I have countless examples where people were told by the spirits that they had to start the mediumship exercise and they decided not to because they were so afraid. So same thing happens on the virtual meeting. Now I'm going to start to talk a bit about examples that I had through my research that I think is important. Okay. PEPE, continuous use of Zoom meetings, including conversation with the benefactors. What is PEPE? PEPE is a project I'm working with more than one institution in Brazil and abroad, that we will replicate KARDEC's method, questions and answers. And as part of this project, we have regular meetings. And using the Zoom, we have open conversations with the members of the organization and the benefactors that work with us. How is that possible? How is that possible? Well, as ever, in the beginning, we kind of, well, let's see how it works, you know, and it's amazing. We are having conversations even with the spirits, the benefactors, through the mediums, in more than one room. They gave us instructions. They help us. I have no other way to say that. They participate like we are having this opportunity here. Hey, don't go this way. Be careful with this. The organization must follow this. And some of you may think, well, this cannot be true. I have everything recorded. I cannot disclose the information because it's specific for the project, but I can talk about it. It's true, it happens. And one day in particular, one spirit was in London speaking to us, and he said, we're going to do something a bit different tonight. I say, here we go. What's going to happen? We're going to speak in myself here and the other spirits on the Espírito Santo in Brazil. He's going to join the meeting. I said, well, that's not possible. You know, what's the point? And was the best meeting ever. Speaking about science, speaking about method, speaking about our project. Everything I have it recorded. So it's a reality. It was exactly like I was in the Spiritist meeting face to face and for the project. Okay, so through those meetings, we had one event that we had to assist to do some kind of healing pass to one of the person that was involved in the project. And we did. like we do face to face. We always stop, we think, we thought, we try to give energy. And through the exercise, I'm not going to say anything because let me be quiet. It's better to be quiet. On the end of the exercise, the spirits in Brazil came, Guilherme, you really donate a lot of energy tonight, ectoplasm, isn't it? I was a bit, Yes, I haven't mentioned that to anyone. But the person that was in Meeting Brazil was there. And when he said that, I said, well, that was not only on my mind. There was not just me thinking that was happening, like we used to do when we are face to face. So this basically, I think I spoke enough about this experience. Neon is Núcleo Espírita Dr. Antero Manhães, is the house that I'm connected in Brazil, the house that is more than 70 years. And we had a case of one person, one young lady that was passing through a very hard situation. And I was speaking with them in Brazil frequently, trying to help. And one day I said to my wife, well, we need to talk to the Spiritists again, because that's beyond my pay grade, let's say, right? So yeah, let's see, we try to have this conversation through specific time and day. So always a method, always a routine, that's important. But then I was in my room and my wife came, they are here. You want to talk right now? So, well, yeah, if they are here, let's go. And we start to ask for instructions for that young lady. The Spirit said to me, I need to send a message. And at the time I was not prepared. I had no paper, I had nothing to write or anything. And came to my mind straight away, WhatsApp. I pressed the button, record. And he started to give his message. On the end, I send. Once again, I have it saved. I will not disclose online, but I have it. And the message was very, very direct and very positive to help that family. And they followed the instructions, and that young lady is way better now. So the spirits used WhatsApp. So another technology that KARDEC could not even think about at the time. But the spirits know is there. And I didn't think myself about that. But they know technology is there. They use it. We use a mobile technology. As I said in the beginning, I like to do experiments and participate on things before I talk. There is an institution connected to a medical association in Brazil that is a scientific branch of the institution. There I have regular routine meetings with them because they are part of the project. I spoke in the beginning. And they start to do ectoplasm meeting online. I was invited to be part of it. I said, wow, I've been part of face-to-face ectoplasm meeting, but online, you know, it's always that status quo thing. But I always allowed myself to try, to investigate, to do research, and I did. I could feel my fellow friends, like we were all together in the same room. The amount of energy, or ectoplasma, if you like, donated was massive, Not through everyone, because they had different patients, different people to be assisted. We had few mediums, including myself. We have the coordinators, and that was real. What I can tell you, that was more real than I thought. And they are conducting this kind of meeting for several months. And the people that participate on those meetings, they are not people like me. I'm nothing. I'm very comfortable being nothing. We're talking about doctors, surgeons, people that have a very strong skills in medicine, because that is part of the institution. Most of them are doctors, and that is real. That's very real. But one thing, preparation, method, to ensure that it's conducted safely, they had to do that. And when I talk about preparations, for those that are not familiar with, an ectoplasm meeting, you cannot make sex at least 24 hours before. You cannot eat meat. You cannot have alcohol. You cannot drink anything that's alcoholic. You cannot smoke. There's a lot of things to be followed. It's not just like, here we go, I'm going to the meeting. It's not like that. There is a previous and serious preparation. And this very same preparation was done for the virtual meeting. So once again, there is no difference between presential or virtual meetings. Same care as presential. Virtual mediumship meetings. I had a pleasure to found a group that allowed me to participate on those meetings. And now I'm part of the group because I'm participating. Today, because I was traveling to France, I could not go with them, but I'm doing every Saturday after the PEPE. Once again, you know, is that real? Let me try. And me and my wife, we participate on the first meeting. And I said to myself, I will not open my mouth. I'm here just to observe. That's my task here. And I decided to accept the invitation after you guys invite me to be here today. I said, if I want to talk, I need to have practice. I need to try first. Otherwise, I'll be speaking here just reading a book. I don't like that. Well, it was a surprise for me because I had in mind that I would keep my mouth shut. First, communication. Let me explain something first. In that institution, back in Brazil, there are two scenarios where the indoctrinator and the medium are in separate houses. And when they are a couple, and they are a medium and an indoctrinator, they are face to face, but everything online, right? First, communication. The spirit was there very reluctant to listen to the instructions. And I start to feel who I call my friend, very close to me. And the way I feel, I start to have intensive heart beatings. So I know he wants to talk. And I said, I won't say anything tonight. I'm just a visitor. Came again and again. It started to be so intensive that I opened the mic and he started to speak with the medium in Brazil. He gave a message. And the scenario has changed entirely. On the other side of the Atlantic. It wasn't me, was him. At the end, I said, what is that? That is real. You know, that's what I was feeling. That's real. Because I'm used to this face to face. But the same thing happens online. So from that moment, what came to my mind is real. And if my friend did that, he did that to show me something. Because the indoctrinator could have done what he did in theory, right? But he was kind of trying to show me is real. A little bit further in the meeting, my wife, she had a communication through her. And the indoctrinator back in Brazil spoken to her, to the spirit. I was only listening. But we had an event. His internet was frozen. And the spirit asked, where he's gone? Where's the guy I was talking to? He's gone. and then I step up and I continue the conversation. So even the spirit noticed that he was gone, he was frozen for 1-2 minutes. But I thought, no, I'm here, I know what to do, and I step up. After that, psychography. And they had other events. I'm just describing what happened to me. That through my research, that is important. I need to feel comfortable in what I'm doing or with what I'm going to say. That was real. There was no difference. There was no difference between face-to-face meeting. And I have been long enough in the Spiritist meetings, mediumship meetings, to feel the connection, the energy. I was connected to every single room. It was amazing. And from that point, was not only what I heard from other people, because I mentioned a few things here, but I know a few institutions in Brazil. I cannot mention their names because I don't have the approval, but in south of Brazil, a very important institution, from day one, when they start, the pandemic started, they jump into virtual mode with success. Another institution, also in the south of Brazil, conducting meeting without problems. This institution in the center of Brazil that I'm participating, they had no problems. They only had to win the fear. I was told yesterday, because I'm still doing my research, another house is doing in my hometown. But this is a kind of, we are kind of shy. We don't say that to people. We are afraid sometimes for many reasons. But when we start to search, we find. So I found this another institution. It's another institution that has at least 60 years experience. I know this institution myself. I went there myself before, a very serious institution. Perhaps even older than the one I'm part of. But I guess at least 60 years by the building, by some of the pictures over there. My own institution recently asked me, Guilherme, would you consider do a hybrid meeting with us? Because in the beginning, not many people is comfortable with that. Perhaps I was not comfortable either. It was in the beginning, you know, always face to face. I need to find information before I become comfortable. So perhaps in the near future, we're going to have hybrid meetings. What is a hybrid meeting? Face to face with a computer, because we are doing hybrid studies already. So we are comfortable with technology. We are comfortable with the possibilities. Perhaps we're going to do that. We don't know. Interaction among the mediums and indoctrinators and benefactors is a reality. Is a reality. Any risk? Do you think we have any risk doing that at home? Guys, I'm not looking for the time. If you think that I'm speaking for too long, please stop me. Okay, so I'll speed up a little bit now. So on the left side, the risks of face-to-face. On the right side, I'm going straight away to the end, and then I will speak about one or two things because I'm concerned about the time. What are our risks? If you are a medium on a face-to-face meeting that really loves alcohol, is something that's very important to you, drugs, unbalanced sex, you don't follow the Spiritism instructions, I would ask myself if you are even prepared to go on a face-to-face. Of course, we all have our problems. We all have our difficulties to win. And I'm not saying that a person with those characteristics should not go to a face-to-face meeting. What I'm trying to say is the person with those characteristics need to work harder to reduce the amount of problems, if I can call them problems, on the face-to-face. On the virtual, is exactly the same thing. It's not because I'm at home that I can have a massive lunch with 2-3 beers or something, that 3 hours later I can join a virtual meeting. I have to follow exactly the same guidelines for a face-to-face meeting. So in my opinion, a medium is a medium 24/7. And if we are a medium 24/7, we are okay on a face-to-face and into a virtual meeting. The only difference, the main risks, and I gave an example when I was speaking on the previous slide, is the use of technology that can be overcome. If I have a coordinator, if I have a backup, you guys in the beginning asked, do you have a phone? Yeah, I have a phone here connected to this meeting because I want to see at least some of the faces if you are here, if I'm still on the room. So something simple like that will ensure you like a backup to your meeting. Perhaps your internet is gone, but your mobile is okay, and you can carry on. That can be overcome. Drawbacks. Fear again. I would say to all of you, fear what? Don't you trust yourself? Don't you study enough the Spiritism to know what's going on? Don't you have enough experience? And the most important, don't you trust your benefactors, Jesus and God? Because remember, 300 years ago, we had no technology at all. If someone said 300 years ago what KARDEC brought 200 years ago, that would be massive. I heard that people lost their heads not too long ago when they decide to bring some science into the world, when people decide to bring light into the world. So that's what we're trying to do again. Think about other ways of doing things, help people. Not following the Spiritism instructions. This is our basis. If we follow the instructions, if we count on each other with experiences, with the practice, we'll be okay. Before I resume myself for the questions, I would like to say only one thing. We Spiritists, we like to say a lot, charity, 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 help people. When I have someone isolated, they had no means to go to a Spiritist institution, how can I help them? If I have means to help them, if I decide not to do, what are my responsibilities? I used to say to people back home that if you find, because everything is down to interpretation, every book can be interpreted in 7 different ways. But if you find anything in KARDEC, in Chico, in Divaldo, all those mediums around the world that prevent you to do charity, prevent you to do good, ask yourself one thing. What Jesus would do? Would Jesus use what is available to him to help people? Or he would say, no, it's not written somewhere. No, let's be by the book. What Jesus will do to help those in need. And I'll stay here now. to all of you if you have any question. And please ask, because I really like people asking questions, including myself, because that's the thing that's most important to all of us.
Yeah, Guilherme, thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation. It was really strong message. The way you explained this, the certainty, this confidence you're bringing this message across was really very, very strong. So I'm really impressed. And